What's up, and welcome to this episode 4 of Loki review here on Certified Gumbo. Man, we got a quite an interesting episode, and we're in quite an interesting predicament, not only in the show, but as our internet connections are concerned. I'm having Wi-Fi issues, and Imani's having power issues. We don't know how long this episode is going to last, so we're going to get into it and see what happens.
Real quick before we do, prayers to everybody in this heat. As you can see, we are shoulders out on the show today.
You know what I'm
It's
saying?
hot. All right, we got cold drinks. It's stay cool out there, okay?
And I also want to say, this is not sunburn. This is just the lighting. I don't know why I look red, but just if anyone's concerned why I look red, it's just the lighting.
Wear your sunscreen, people. Just a reminder.
But do wear sunscreen.
Yes. Sun does not discriminate the way we like to believe it does. You will just get melanoma and you won't know it because the mole is the same color as you. Take care of yourself.
Facts. All right.
But as always, do we want to start with rating the episode?
Let's rate the episode. Let's do it, man. Let us know in the chat on a scale of 1 to 10 where you rank this episode. Imani, you want to go
9.
first?
Easy.
A 9? Easy 9.
Easy.
Definitely, 9. I'm going to say 8.5 on the episode. Really up there. And you know, the 0.5 comes from that mid-credit scene. If you don't know there's a mid-credit scene, you might want to go check that out.
Wait.
But
the mid-credit scene adds the 0.5 to an 8, or it takes a 0.5 away from a 9?
It adds the 0.5 to an 8.
Okay, so I would say without the mid-credit scene, for me, it would have been an 8.5. But I'm, happy because I knew the name of the show was Loki, so I knew they weren't going to kill him, but I didn't know what was going to happen. I wasn't expecting a black Loki, classic suit Loki, aka Mermaid Man, kid, and then the crocodile.
Crocodile Loki.
I wasn't expecting that, so they get cool points for that. It looks like it's a whole land of Lokis. I'm excited to see what the next episode looks like.
Go ahead.
I searched the hashtag Loki just to see what was going on social media, and other countries where black is negro. And like Negro Loki is everywhere. Like it could be its own hashtag, which I just thought was really good. But anyway, continue what you're gonna say.
No, I was gonna say, so I don't know if Tom, and shout out, I see Ducky Momo in the chat. He says, let me get to it. Oh, did I lose it? I think I may have lost internet connection.
No, we can hear you just fine.
Am I here? Am I live?
You're live.
Okay. All right. My thing started buffering. All right. Yeah. Okay. So I see Ducky Momo says 6.8, but the end credit scene is a 9.5. I highly agree with that, but I also wanted to say I don't know if it was in an interview or he tweeted it. I don't know if Tom Hiddleston has a Twitter, but I saw this on Twitter that he said after episode 3, the show is just going to get flipped on its head and it's going to go in a direction that nobody is going to be able to predict. And he was not lying. This episode, some of what I thought would happen, but the majority of it didn't. But I'm not disappointed with the direction that they're going because, as far as I'm concerned, this whole multiversal aspect is definitely on the table. It's looking like we're getting into the meat and potatoes of that.
So I can say Tom Hiddleston, just to answer your question, does have a Twitter and he has an Instagram, and he has not posted since July 2020. So he is not active on the internet himself.
So it was a interview that ended up on the socials. Direct quote though. It was a quote.
I mean, I would say, yeah, well, we shouldn't be surprised at how this was flipped on its head, because the ending of episode 3 was a lot. Like that art getting destroyed, I didn't know how they were going to get out of this. I didn't know what was going to be done to save them. So I didn't know how they were going to work this out. So I'm excited. And also, if we could just get into it, the Nexus event that happened when they almost died, to me is a very big deal. Like if they were going to,
that was interesting,
and they're not supposed to be there, then there should not have been a branch. It should have just ended. But no,
right?
them almost dying was going to be a huge Nexus event. Like, to me, that itself pushed the episode, just that one scene pushed the episode to a 10 to a 7.5, and everything else just brought it up from there, because that was a huge deal.
Well, and it also is it really just tells us that like that was not, they're not in whatever time period, whatever like they weren't supposed to die in that moment. Like that was the ultimate confirmation. Like wherever this pairing or these variants, because as we saw, it's no longer a pair. It seems like we've got a bunch of these possibly on the horizon. This is not meant to be their end, and what will be their end, who knows? I have no idea where this show is going, and I'm digging it because I'm so ready for episode 5 now, because I'm like, all right, that was not the direction I was anticipating. I think one of my predictions, I think I had like 3 possible outcomes for how they would get off of Lamentus, and my third option, which I thought was the least likely, was that the TVA was just going to pop up and pull them out, which is what happened. But I didn't really put any like real stock into that idea, to that notion.
I absolutely thought that he had the little flip phone joint in his pocket, and it was
me too.
Fine. Like,
and they gotta,
he was gonna save them.
Yeah, they gotta clear up some of that, because I had to dock a few points for me for that, because they gotta explain how this conjuration magic works in the MCU, because from what I understand, conjuration works is you basically are recalling items from a separate dimension, so it's not supposed to be physically on your person. So that's why I thought that it can't really be broken, because it wasn't actually on him when he fell out the train.
So here's my theory, and I have 2. One, he sent it to a dimension that it got jacked up, and so it was just destroyed wherever he sent it. And then 2, he still has it, and it is perfectly fine. Because in this episode, at the very end, I don't mean to jump around, he grabbed not Shelby. What's her name? Sylvie. He grabbed her by the shoulders, and he looked like he wanted to confess something. Like he was going to tell her something. It was taking a little bit long. And then Ravonna killed him. I was thinking that at that moment, he was going to confess to her the truth, because he felt like lying to her is bad, that he had it. So that's just my little theory.
Yeah. So speaking of that, that opens up an entirely different aspect of this whole TVA thing, because when we thought that these people, well, at least I did, I don't know about you, but I thought the little TVA pole stick zapper thing was disintegrating people.
But
it turns out, I guess they're sending them to a separate dimension.
Yes.
And it's not killing them. So every variant that they've disintegrated is not disintegrated. It's actually somewhere else.
That's
some
what
alternate reality. And maybe that's the explanation for episode 5, which is wild, because imagine if the plan for Loki and Sylvie is to, like, you know, behead in the TVA, which that was another.
There was a lot to talk about in this episode.
Oh, did I fade? Am I here? Can you hear me?
We can hear you even when you're skipping.
Okay. All right. Well, so when that happened, I was like, all right, so if they overthrow the TVA or the timekeepers, you know, what happens to all the variants? And then I guess what happens to all the variants that have been sent to alternate dimensions or wherever they are? Because I'm pretty sure we're going to get the explanation for what this world is that Loki is currently in, the prime Loki. Because we see Old Man Loki, which was a rumor that we'd heard, for a couple months now, that Old Man Loki was going to be in it, and it was played by Richard Grant, and that is actually who is playing the older Loki, the one that you said looked like Barnacle Boy. with the classic Loki outfit on from the comic books. So that was like real. Man, I don't know where all this is going. And Crocodile Loki, I'm they can't disappoint with Crocodile Loki.
I don't I don't have
Gotta
any
say,
argument there. That's definitely strange. Crocodile Loki. What was I going to say? I have so many thoughts because this was a very good episode. They did a lot in here, and I don't want to jump around. Is it okay if I go back to the beginning of the episode real quick?
man, look, we gonna get it in with how we can because
All
we're
right.
having some minor technical
Okay.
difficulties. So
So,
we just gonna we it. I don't think everybody minds we hop around a little bit.
all right. I told you I wasn't going to do too much deep diving and digging and too much speculating. However, one, knowing what we know about Sylvie in the comics, and then two, just everything that you've said, I'm still not sure if Sylvie is who she says she is. Only because, and this is going to be like some girl talk for 2 seconds. In the flashback, her hair is still black. She has black hair, and now she's a blonde.
Yeah,
Now I
yeah.
know, like women like to look good. We like to switch it up, and her roots are a little bit black. But in the comics, Lady Loki has black hair. And so I'm still like, if anything, this episode kind of solidified it for me. Like maybe she's not telling the truth about who she really is. It could be semantics. I don't know. But she has a little bit of a black root. I'm not too sure. But no.
Yeah,
Also,
I feel like I think it is the highlighter. I think it's just highlighter. I mean, I feel like they're not going to go too in the weeds with that. I feel like this episode is basically confirmation that yes, this is just a female variant of Loki, and I think that because she's a female variant of Loki is why the TVA stepped in and decided that she had to be purged from the timeline because maybe I don't know, but it seems like that was what seemed to be implied by that whole episode because I think Ravonna was definitely lying when she told her she couldn't remember why it was she had to be purged.
I think that she's lying too. Um, and what
She
kills me,
totally remembers.
it's probably something simple like she picked up the boat to play with instead of the doll that day, which that that may be why she didn't tell her, but that's just to show how cruel everything is. Ravonna was not at all surprised when I'm jumping around again. Excuse my laptop, y'all. Jumping around again, Ravonna was not at all surprised when they cut off the head of the
At all, man.
like
At
she
all.
just
Isn't that
didn't even
interesting?
react. No
Isn't that
reaction at all.
interesting?
So we can't trust anything she says or does. Also, I mean, we knew that from the clip, also from that Morbius played when he was watching the tape of her interviewing Hunter C20. Like clearly she cannot be trusted. And she knows the truth about the timekeepers, whatever that truth may be. So yeah, don't trust her.
Okay, so I'm sorry, but I gotta theorize about something real quick because, like I said
Hit
in the
me.
previous episodes, you know, there's this connection between Ravonna and what's my man
Kang?
Kang the Conqueror. What if that? What if Kang created the Timekeepers, and she's in on this whole plot? Like let's say the whole sacred timeline thing is real, but this is a plot for Kang the Conqueror. Like, remember how they started teasing Thanos in the early Marvel movies, but it were like light. We didn't know we kind of got that implication that we were headed towards some sort of Infinity War or the Infinity Gauntlet, as it was previously referred to in the comics. What if this is something that they're sort of kind of setting up in this episode? Like, it will be revealed that the real mastermind behind the Timekeepers is Kang the Conqueror, and this is Ravonna's secret agent, the other person that she's referring to as her other favorite.
I'm agreeing with you 1000% because Ravonna Rainslayer, besides just being smart, has no physical powers.
Right.
And I actually support the idea that she was herself, in fact, a variant who Kang chose to work with her. Because I do believe the clip that they played in the beginning, where she was working for the TVA as a hunter and um,
Yeah.
supposed to get little younger girl Loki and lost, the upset, the emotion in her face, she took that seriously as what can I compare it to? I can compare it to B-15, how B-15 was feeling when Loki got away from her. Ravonna had that same look on her face, like disappointment and not feeling like she's doing her job properly. So I definitely think she at some point was a variant who was working for the TVA, who is now working with Kang the Conqueror directly.
Yeah, like it's like, did he pour, so if there is this that relationship, if this exists in the MCU as it did in the comic books, like, let's say this variant of Ravonna, maybe the real Ravonna is I believe she's like a queen somewhere. I don't know her whole backstory, but if I remember what I read correctly, she's a queen somewhere King fell in love with. He wanted her to marry him. And also, I think King has variants, but anyway, that's beyond the point. This variant, maybe he um he favors. I don't know, because you got to explain why she has such a high position within this organization that you know we found out in this episode the leadership, they're not real. Like, this is all a fabrication created by some mastermind. And I mean, I don't know who else is going to be able to pull off this level of farce outside of King, who we know that's pretty much what he does.
So I'm trying to figure out the relationship between them as far as how they came about. But basically, you're right. She is a princess. She is the daughter of a king, and Kang wanted her something serious, and she was like, "No, I'd rather die." And long story short, it looks like he had to steal her.
So maybe that happens, right? Maybe, and then like maybe he finds a variant of her. Maybe the real one or the original one did kill herself or take her own life, and now he's found this variant of her and has wiped her memory like he has all the other variants, and is doing this weird thing. And maybe it's some other person, but I just feel like we know that King the Conqueror is coming, and he is one of these big, Marvel threats that they're gonna set up. So I don't know. This is interesting. Whoever it is, I'm pretty sure this is going to be very interesting outcome, and I think it's going to have further implications down the future. At this point, I don't see how we end this show without the TVA being destroyed and the Sacred Timeline being eradicated in
I
some
think
in some form or fashion.
I think it's pretty clear that the TVA is done for, even at the end of this episode. At the very least, B-15 and Morbius, they're going to have an effect on everybody else. So it's pretty much a wrap there.
And
Um,
also, R.I.P. Mobius, man. He's got that was I didn't really see that coming in this episode. That was until it happened. Um, but man, that was I'm glad the ruse, the shroud was taken off and he could see clearly in the end. Hopefully we'll see him again though, because I like his character.
I'm refusing to believe that he's really dead.
Well, he's not though, right? Because he got sent. He has to be in another dimension. Because
He's
if
not.
Loki didn't get killed when that happened, like, he's somewhere in. I didn't even think. And we just talked about this, but yeah, you're right.
Also, did I talk about this on the air yesterday, or maybe I was having this conversation with someone else? Seeing, no, today's episode confirmed it. I was wondering if, like, um the different dimensions, like this thing, or variants, that's what I was thinking, that the different Spider-Mans in Far From Home were going to be variants. And
Mm-hmm.
now I'm wondering if, at some point we're going to get a scene where Tom Holland Spider-Man is just in a universe with all the other Spider-Mans. Like, is that what that movie's gonna be like? Like this
It
is
would
making
make
me feel like
sense, right? It
that's
would
what we're
make
gonna
sense,
get.
right? Like
Yes.
it would make a lot of sense. Like let's the sacred timeline being destroyed. Now all of these variants, everything that has been contained in some alternate dimension of reality that's not a part of the sacred timeline. Now everything comes back into the fold. Like remember they talked about the multiversal war at the beginning, like was that episode 1? And this whole big thing about the timekeepers were the ones that were able to bring peace to the timeline and contain it into the sacred timeline and all that jazz. Like now all this has been imploded. Let's say this happened simultaneously to No Way Home, right? Like it these events, whatever. Let's say the series ends or this season ends, and then at the end of it, timeline is blown up. Variants are all over the place. You have a whole multiverse. This sets up the multiverse of madness. It also sets up, Tom Holland and that the Spider-Man, and then the different variants or versions of Spider-Man that we have seen. Like, yeah, I mean, this show kind of explains how all of that can happen.
I do support your theory about this possibly causing the universal war or the multiversal war because as they said in the show, time works differently in the TVA. I've been questioning myself when in time the TVA was formed.
Right.
Like, for all we know, the TVA could have been formed well in the future of what we've seen so far on this show, but because of how they can control time and work with time, they're affecting all time. So kind of like how switching to another comic
That
book,
is their motto for all
right?
time.
Like for all time. It's making me think of Dr. Manhattan. How like, did y'all hear my accent just now? Jeez,
Yeah,
Louise, that's a Dr. Manhattan.
It just jumped out.
How he was experiencing time all at once. That's kind of how I felt about the entire show. Like just the hopping around, but not aging and just being one solid thing at all times. That's kind of how the TVA is running. I feel like I'm jumping around so much. This is just such a good episode. I'm so excited.
But it does, because there's so many things. Like it's not really due to what happens in the episode. It's hard to talk about it in a linear fashion because there's like so many other implications outside of this episode, and knowing the whole MCU landscape going forward and what projects we have on the table and how all this stuff come into fruition, like you're starting to see how important this show could be, depending on we still got 2 episodes left to go, but right now it feels like this show is really fundamental to what's the future of the MCU. But yeah, I don't know, man. Having this conversation, I might have to change my score to a 9 because you know what? I'll have to see how episode 5 is, but it's like, man, this is really good because I feel like it's my excitement for what could happen that is wanting me to give this a 9, but I feel like I gotta see how this concludes. I do enjoy and did enjoy what happened in the episode though.
I absolutely do. And I've said it several times. I hate that this show is only going to be 6 episodes. I want more of this. Like this is so good. Going into the comments, we actually have a few comments to get through, but Ducky Momo mentioned timekeepers looking like Chuck E. Cheese animatronics. Can I just say this bothered me too? All that magic, and that's all they could do. What?
Well, I mean, they were never supposed to. It is kind of like it's the Wizard of Oz, right? Like they're not. I felt like it was not necessary, but it's just part of the whole ruse because like one, they're kept in mystery. Nobody's supposed to see them. The only person who seems to have access to them is Ravonna, which is odd, adding to her mystery. We know she's not the big bad because that makes literally no sense. So right now we have no idea who actually is responsible for creating the TVA. But it's interesting that they wanted to talk to the Lokis. Like, how did that even happen? Like, what is that? Like, who gave that order? Who gave that directive? Was it the creator of the TVA that told Ravonna to get the variant Lokis to come into, like, how, what happened? Like, I just need to know. I need to know.
So
It's getting spicy.
I have those questions too. Also, we've said several times that we don't think King the Conqueror is going to be on this show. At this point,
So
they're doing so much. I won't put anything against them because I didn't think we were going to meet the timekeepers, or at least if we did, it would be towards the end. Like we found out about the timekeepers early. So, anything is up for it at this point. What was I going to say?
Well, here's the thing,
I was thinking that
like the thing is, we could see a version of Kang in this. Like, I know Jonathan Majors was cast recently, and he probably, I don't think they've started filming Quantum Mania yet. So unless the news just broke late and they had already, like, it is possible that they could have cast him and they just kept it under wraps. Because if they would announce that earlier, then there would have been a lot more speculation about King the Conqueror popping up in this show. But it is possible that we might see him, because if you see his costume, like, his face is a little obscure, but he's also in the comic books had been different variants of himself. Like, there's different versions of King that shows up, so it's very possible that we could see someone as Kang, not Jonathan Majors, and it would still be Kang the Conqueror, and it would still kind of fit into the sound line. Like, it's very possible we would see a variant of Kang in this.
When did we first
not
start
putting
hearing
a lot of stock into it, but like I'm thinking that it could happen, like, because they just exposed the timekeepers as a whole farce, so we got to know who it is that created them and the TVA.
So when did we first start hearing rumors about Kang the Conqueror and Jonathan Majors? Because Marvel has never confirmed it. This is technically still a rumor. Not saying that it's not what's happening. I believe it's what's happening. But if it hasn't been announced, there's a huge chance we could at least see him, like the way we saw Thanos in at the end of Avengers.
Yeah, and it could. Well, and that was like what, CGI. It wasn't. That wasn't actually. Who's the actor that played him?
Cable.
Yeah, no, but the actor though. Who was it? I forget his name. I'm blanking on his name.
Josh Brolin.
Yes. It was Josh Brolin wasn't cast as Thanos until Infinity War. Every single time we saw Thanos, it was just a CGI render of the character, but because they didn't need him to physically appear to do scenes up until Infinity War. So it's very possible that, Kang wears a mask. So and then like the way his face shows up is always blue. Like, you can create that character in a CG form and then have it mimic Jonathan Majors' likeness if they wanted to in that instance. Depending on how soon and how early they cast him as this character. But I don't know, the rumors that started breaking I don't know what, early this year, like around either right before WandaVision or like around the same time as WandaVision, that we started hearing those rumors. And then a lot of a lot of scoopers and insiders have been corroborating this story, so like it's definitely something there.
I'm sorry, y'all. It's hot.
Agreed.
I'm in here dying.
Agreed.
What do I have? There's so much. What else did I want to talk about? Oh, I didn't get to say. I thought they were going to be not CGI, but projections. Because when you first saw them, the holograms, they looked so fake. And I was like, okay, they're definitely not real. The moment you saw them on screen, I was like, something is up with them. They're not real. What's going on? And then Ducky Momo, you're right. The Chuck E. Cheese head popped out. And I was like, that's not what I was expecting here. So I agree with you. All that magic, and that's what you're going to do. Like, he created the TVA.
Yeah. Whoever created TV, we're going to see who it is. My money right now is on Kang.
The only thing that I can think of is they've done such a good job at controlling people's minds that it didn't matter what the timekeepers looked like, because they did everything else so well. They could have put stick figures there and people would have fell for it.
Yeah, that could be a positive, or it's like some. I don't know. I don't know. It could. I mean, maybe it's an evil Loki. Does he have the ability to do something like this? It's
Um,
possible. Like I can't really completely write that off either.
I do think the TVA has a thing with Loki's. Yes, he is the god of mischief, but I mean, there's a whole bunch of problem causers out there, just a whole bunch of crazies doing stuff. And I have a feeling they're attacking Loki's more than anybody else. I mean,
Right.
like for Ramona to say that she doesn't remember, that means the reason that they got her is probably not as simple as I suggested earlier. It's probably just because she's a Loki. It could be that simple. And I think we'll know for sure next week when we find out how many Lokis are there.
And I mean, for sure, I think what we can at this point determine is that whoever it is feels Loki is definitely a threat to them and to their continue to whatever their plan is. Um, because right now they're trying to dictate what happens and how the universe ends, how time ends. So like whoever this person is obviously perceives Loki as a real threat to this to their plan, to their plot. And I mean, it is interesting that Loki did, say at the what in the first episode that like nobody knows me better than me. So it's I can't write off the possibility of this being a just an evil variant of Loki.
Hmm. If that's the case, I might be upset. And not as upset as I was at the end of WandaVision. But if Kang the Conqueror is not really who's behind all this, I'm going to have an attitude. So I hope it's not that, but I also should keep myself open to all things, because one thing Disney has done is piss me off.
Oh
So
man, yeah,
let
they
me
do that a lot.
let
So
me fall back. But I
yeah,
will say, as far as like we we've been wrong a couple times, but in a good way with this show. Like I feel like with WandaVision, I was wrong, but they created an environment that promoted those thoughts. Like
yeah,
y'all put them Easter eggs in there and then pretended like we didn't see them. Come on now. Like y'all did that.
yeah. That was a lot of that is their fault. That's for sure. That's for sure. But I don't know. This show is it does feel different. It doesn't feel like WandaVision. And the thing is, a lot of what's happening is still tracking with what is rumored and what's happening. Like the fact that the Richard E. Grant scoop and rumor emerged a couple months ago about the old man, like maybe, well, I'd noticed it like maybe a month or two ago. The fact that that actually happened and we saw him in this episode and he's actually in it tracks well with everything else. And like I said, also too, a part of why WandaVision was not what we had all anticipated is because a lot of it was reshot, and I don't think a lot of the insiders realize how much of those reshoots happened, or maybe they did and it just didn't hit the circuit and the social medias and in the internet fast enough. But it did confirm that Doctor Strange was supposed to appear in WandaVision, and that he was actually supposed to be the one who was talking to her through the commercials. Like, so that was what was rumored, and they did confirm that that was in the story at one point, but then they took that out. So it's not like the rumors are just blatantly wrong. It's just that show just there were a lot of course corrections that they made that were ended up probably being missteps.
So I have two things. The first is Richard Grant is actually it's probably his fault that the rumors about him being old man Loki are out there, because he announced himself that he's wanted to work with Tom Hiddleston for a long time, and that he was finally going to get the chance to do so on Loki. And this was like last year. So that's on him. Like, he told the world he was going to be on Loki with Tom Hiddleston, working closely with Tom Hiddleston. That's what specifically he said.
I do
So
remember that.
he did that himself. He spilled the beans. And then second, Park Outdoors just reminded me of something. He says, yeah, maybe Kang is using the TVA as a front to make it seem like the timeline is all good so he can do whatever he wants and not alert higher powers like the Living Tribunal. A little off topic from what he said, but it just reminded me that there are other Marvel heroes that are going to be coming up soon that have beef with the TVA. Specifically, Mr. Fantastic, the Fantastic Four in the comics get in trouble with the TVA all the time. Now, that being said, I still feel like within this show, the TVA is going to blow up. However, we know that time works differently there. So even though the TVA could fall apart now, there could have been events that they've gone to in the future that haven't happened yet within the TVA itself, if that makes sense. So I wouldn't be surprised if, even if it crumbles internally, we might see TVA agents popping up in other future events, if that makes sense. Because we said time works differently in the TVA. We don't even know we don't know when all of this is happening within the TVA. So it could be happening in there while the rest of the world is just continuing to go on as normal. Because if the TVA, again, was created to avoid this war from happening or something, well, it technically still has to happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's within the lore. That's why it was created. But
Gotcha.
in reality, it was the TVA was created to retcon stuff,
right?
Technically, but that's not what's happening here. It is possible, though, that Mobius might take up the mantle, take on that leadership role within the TVA, and whatever happens to the multiverse, possibly you could get different versions of the TVA popping up for different universes within the multiverse. Possibly, I don't know, man. We'll see. We'll see. That's an aspect of it that I'm willing to wait and see what the show does, but I'm really feeling good about where everything is going, and it just feels like it's aligning with a lot more directly aligning with the upcoming properties than the previous TV shows did. And they've been marketing the show heavy, they've been pushing the show for quite a while, and I think it's shown thus far that it is a much bigger deal in terms of continuity with Phase 4 and 5 and probably 6 than WandaVision and definitely Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But that's all of my thoughts on this episode thus far.
I think I got it all out too.
If there's anything else, we can talk about it in the Discord, because that's what we do, and this is such a good episode to talk about, because I know a lot of people are going to be talking about it, and a lot of people are excited for what could possibly be happening in these next 2 episodes. I know Imani is, so we definitely love to talk to y'all more in the Discord as we wait for episode 5 next week.
Trying to think if I have any more thoughts, but I think we got it all out very quickly.
I think so too. Shout out to everybody that popped into chat. Star Wars MCU OG. Dang, I messed up the name. What's going on? What's going on? My mom. I think we missed the rankings. Matter of fact, everybody in the chat, give us a ranking if you haven't already for where you put this episode on a scale of 1 to 10. We got a few. I know Ducky Momo said 6.8.
He never explained that though. He said that the 6.8 for the episode, and then he gave the end credit scene a 9.5. I didn't really know. So Ducky, if you don't want to talk about it here, go ahead and drop that in the Discord too. I need an explanation. What's going on?
For real. Shout out to Carol, Coop Daddy Yoda,
JM,
JVM popped in for a minute before he even watched the episode, so I don't know at what point he actually popped in at this juncture, but it's possible he may have been spoiled to a few things.
Can I say something real quick?
What's up?
Hold on, let me find it. Coop Daddy Yoda, you put your username in there, but you got your government, in the in YouTube. I personally think you should switch that if possible. That way, Coop Daddy Yoda is always there. We do appreciate you introducing yourself, and I like it, but I feel like you don't want the world to know your government if you're going to introduce yourself by your nickname. I feel like, we should make everything streamline it, so just go ahead and drop the FC and put Coop Daddy Yoda up there if possible. It's just been on my mind.
I have to do some tech work over here.
Got you.
Off camera. See if we can get that sorted. Who else? Ash Hammer, what's happening? Good to see you. Of course, Park Outdoors, the Uncool says 8.5. Park Outdoors gives it a 9. Here's the explanation. Ducky Momo says, without the end credit scene, the episode fell flat. It also made the previous episode way too straightforward. That's an opinion.
I do think that this episode...
I can see that, though. It depends on what you felt should have happened in this episode based off what happened last episode. But I think that we gotta wait and see for those of you who were not as happy with the direction of this episode. Let's wait and see how this series ends.
So, two things. One, I don't think it would have fallen flat without the end credit scene because it was still an amazing episode. But I think giving us that end credit scene prepares us in a way for what's next. Because I still don't know what's next, but I know more than what I didn't know before. So at least we now know that the TVA doesn't kill people. They send them somewhere. So I do think it is important that we got that. I don't think the episode would have been bad without it. But I do agree. The last episode, I thought it was great. It's whack now. I don't want to watch it again. In fact, I think I might watch episode 4 again. Just because. So, yeah, I can agree with last week as well.
Solid point.
Coop Daddy Yoda, you already know what's up. We're here.
So, yeah, I've got nothing else for this episode.
That's all I got. As always, thank y'all for watching. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at Certified Gumbo. Thank you for watching. Please like this video right now and subscribe to our channel if you have not already. As always, thank you for watching, and please support us by buying some coffee. Buy us a cup of coffee. The link is in the description bar down below. And of course, we talk about this stuff all day, every day. And I do encourage y'all to continue this conversation with us on the Discord. We actually had a couple people talking about it on the Discord during our show. So please go ahead and go on over to Discord. Coop, Bad Batch on Friday.
Bad Batch on Friday, but we will not be going live at 8 p.m. Eastern. We will be going live at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the morning because I will not be available in the afternoon. No! I'm going to be somewhere on a beach or at a cookout, eating food, basking in the sun, getting some waves. All vibes. It's the holiday 4th of July weekend. It's summertime. I'm on vacation, living my best life. We just lost the background. It's time to get out of here.
Okay, yeah, y'all don't know. Don't worry about that.
So, without further ado, like I always say, thank you for joining. Peace, love, blessings, and may the force be with you always.